let's move on to the next topic. We're going to be talking about the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, who I believe is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Give you some honorable mentions as well. Let me start with this. The quarterbacks, ranking quarterbacks, man, it's tough. I mean, it is so difficult. There are so many good quarterbacks in the NFL. I just have such a difficult time. So I made my list before this. I don't know how confident in I am. And this is a list that I do think could change, like tomorrow. Guys could fluctuate. I think I have my top 5 down. Then you go from 6 to 13, and dudes can just up and down, right? That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I finalized it for now. This is where I'm at with my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Starting with number 1, if you have, I'll say this to start. If you are making a top quarterback list and your number 1 is not Patrick Mahomes, throw it away. You're wrong. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. It's not even close. He's in a tier of his own. That doesn't even need to really be elaborated on. Everybody should know that. Okay, let's move on to number 2. I gave y'all a little hint earlier. Josh Allen. Josh Allen gets hate, okay? And I see that. Josh Allen gets a ton of hate. He slings the ball. He's a gunslinger. Josh Allen is a gunslinger. When he gets into the red zone, sometimes you kind of got to hold your breath. Sometimes he gets a little nuts with the football. He's a gunslinger, but there is stuff that he does that nobody else can do. That's who Josh Allen is. He can do things that dang near nobody else could do in the history of the game. He is like, I don't want to, I don't believe in jinxing. I'm going to do it just for the people out there but he's like, just doesn't get hurt and he takes so many hits. He's like a tank. Elite rusher, elite passer, gets a little crazy sometimes. I understand that. But if there's any quarterback in the league that I can have on my team and I can't take Patrick Mahomes, I'm taking Josh Allen. Number 3, I got to throw in Joe Burrow. Healthy, okay? Well, he's never healthy. I get that. And honestly, if you want to dock him for that, go for it. I'm not even going to hate that. But when Joe Burrow is healthy, like I said, the one season Joe Burrow was healthy, we saw them go to the Super Bowl. So I have Joe Burrow sliding in at my 3 spot. And again, I think this 3-4 guys could be swapped. Some people might have this guy at 3. I have him at 4. Some people might have him as high as 2, which is fine, honestly. But I do think the answer for number 2 is Josh Allen. Anyways, Lamar Jackson, MVP winner. I used to not be very high on Lamar Jackson. I mean, 2 years ago, I was doing podcasts and I was making top 10 quarterback lists, and I didn't even have Lamar Jackson on there. Shout out to my guy, Hank. Hank, if you're listening to this, you were on an episode with me, I'm pretty sure, where we did top 10 quarterbacks, or we just talked about Lamar. I know Finn was on an episode with me where I left Lamar off my top 10 list. So shout out those guys if you're listening. Go back and listen. Well, actually, that probably wouldn't do you any good. That was like 2 years ago. But you can if you want to, though. You can go back and listen to it. They all should be up. Not on YouTube, though. But anyways, Lamar Jackson, 4th. Listen, the biggest dock on Lamar Jackson that I used to have was his passing. I didn't think it was that great. I really didn't. And I stand by how I felt. That I didn't think Lamar Jackson was a great passer. I still don't think he was a great passer. He got better. And I said he might get better. And if he does, I'll change my opinion. And he did. Lamar Jackson got better as a passer. He's a better passer than he was 2 years ago. He won that first MVP award back in 2019 strictly because of his rushing ability. This past year, it was a combination of both. He's such a good rusher. He's such a good runner. Such a good one. And when you add in that dual threat of passing, so Lamar Jackson will slide in at my 4. This is where you could start to get this gets a little controversial. I think some people might disagree with how I feel about who I have at number 5. My number 5 is CJ Stroud. So I think there are some people, who aren't going to be super duper fond of that. And but I think there are people out there who might even have him higher. And listen, like I said, I mentioned all these guys earlier when talking about the teams in the divisions. I am a big believer in CJ Stroud. What I saw last year, I loved. And what I think I'm going to see again this year is him building off of last year, a couple, even more weapons in the offense, adding Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs. I think this team just gets better, and I think CJ Stroud elevates it even more. I'm a believer in CJ Stroud. He was in the MVP conversation for dang near almost the entire season last year, and it was valid too. I have Stroud flying in at number 5 on my rankings. That's my top 5, and I'm pretty confident in that. This is where it starts to get a little, what the heck are you doing? Some people might be asking me. Really, anywhere from like 6 down, it's crazy. Okay. Number 6, I got the guy who played 3 snaps last year. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers. But he was hurt last year. How do you know? Good question. I don't know. He was hurt last year. He tore his Achilles. He played 3 snaps for the New York Jets. How do I know Aaron Rodgers is going to be the 6th best quarterback in the league? I'm just basing it off of this. Before he was hurt, he was a top quarterback like this, sitting in rankings like this. He is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He is arguably the most talented quarterback of all time. He has weapons around him to succeed this season. He doesn't rely on that leg too much to where that Achilles is going to hinder some aspects of his game a lot. And I'm not saying it's not going to affect anything, but it's not like if this was Lamar Jackson who tore his Achilles, things would be a little bit different. This is Aaron Rodgers, who's a pocket passer. He's a master at it. And I have him at 6. He's that good. The Jets are good. He's great. I'm a believer in Aaron Rodgers. I have him at 6. Coming in at number 7, Matthew Stafford. Yep. Again, not a ton to say about Stafford. He's so, the only thing about Stafford that I am not like, because he's more of a traditional passer. He's not the guy with the fastest wheels and he's taking off and juke like these new guys are. But the only slight criticism I have of Matthew Stafford is sometimes his deep ball is bad. Some people might be like, what? No, sometimes Matthew Stafford's deep ball is bad, but not all the time. And that's just the only thing I could think of if I was like nitpicking Matthew Stafford. I'm still a believer. I wish the Niners drafted traded for Matthew Stafford when they during the Jimmy Garoppolo era. Instead, they traded 3 first-round picks and drafted Trey Lance. I was all on board for Stafford. I still wish that happened. We probably would have won a Super Bowl by now. I like Brock Purdy. I'm not mad at that. I'm just saying, if we had Stafford back then, things could have been different. They probably wouldn't have won it. They definitely wouldn't have won it 2021 when the Rams won. The Rams wouldn't have won it, is what I meant to say, not the Niners. Anyways, Stafford at 7. This is getting weird now. There's so many good quarterbacks in the NFL. I got Justin Herbert at 8. I know he hasn't won a playoff game. The time he made the playoffs against the Jags, they had a massive lead in the first half and blew it in the second half. Like an absolute choke job. Like he went full Kyle Shanahan on us. Justin Herbert's still elite. He's got arguably the best arm in the league. He's so accurate. He's got great pocket presence. He can scramble. He can extend plays. It's going to be tough for him this year because he doesn't have a ton to rely on. But I got Justin Herbert, man, as my 8th best quarterback. Number 9, I got Brock Purdy. I have Brock Purdy at 9. I hate the Brock Purdy is the system quarterback talk. I think that's such foolishness. He's not. Let's get this narrative out of our head. If you've watched Brock Purdy play the game of football, you will know he's not a system quarterback. He does more things than some of these other guys can do. He's such a good extender of plays. He can roll out. He can call an audible on the fly and figure something out on his own. Point to Ayuk to get open. He can just manage the game and manage the players on the field like he's such a good leader, and he can do it all. He can do it all. And I'm a fan of Brock Purdy. I have him at my 9th slot. He's super accurate. But he threw like 3 interceptions in the preseason in the training camp. I don't care, dude. It's preseason. That doesn't really concern me. If he starts throwing picks left and right in the regular season, okay, then we have a problem. But no, I have Brock coming in at 9. To round out my top 10, I have Jared Goff. He proved a lot to me last year, NFC Championship game, and he was a big reason they were there. He's kind of like Brock Purdy. I mean, he's accurate. He can extend a play if he needs to. He's got good pocket presence. Jared Goff has come a long way since his Rams days. And I got him rounding on my top 10. My 3 honorable mentions for the top 10 list were Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Kirk Cousins. Like I said, the quarterbacks are just, man, it is just tough to rank quarterbacks. So my list could totally fluctuate. It could definitely change at some point, and it probably will. But that's just where I'm at right now. I think that is my top 10 quarterback list. Heading into the season,